I was sitting across from Divina at this little beachside cafe in Batangas when she spread the papers out on the table between us. 3 months we'd been together by then. 3 months since I flew halfway around the world to meet the woman who'd been sending me messages that made me feel alive again. She had sketches, actual hand-drawn sketches of a small store. A sari-sari store, she called it. One of those neighborhood shops you see on every corner in the Philippines. "Look, baby," she said, her eyes catching the sunlight in a way that made my chest tight. "This is our dream, our future together." I remember staring at those sketches like they were blueprints for a mansion. They weren't much. Just a small storefront, shelves, a counter. But the way she talked about it, you'd think we were building an empire. "I've been saving for 2 years, she told me. Her fingers traced the edges of the paper. "But it's not enough yet. Not quite enough. I'd met Divina online 4 months earlier. I know how that sounds. 60-year-old widower from Steinbach meets 26-year-old Filipina on some international dating site. I can already hear what people would say. But you have to understand where I was. My wife Sarah died 4 years before. Cancer. Brutal and slow. After she passed, I didn't know what to do with myself. I'd retired from welding the year before she got sick, thinking we'd travel, thinking we'd finally have time. Then suddenly I had all the time in the world and no one to share it with. The house in Steinbach felt like a tomb. My kids called once a week out of obligation. My buddies from work didn't know what to say to me anymore. I was just existing, not living, existing. Then one night, scrolling through my phone because I couldn't sleep, I saw her profile. Divina. Business management graduate. Quezon City. Looking for something real. Her smile in that photo. God, it was like sunlight after years of winter. We started chatting. Just small talk at first. She asked about Canada. I asked about the Philippines. But then it got deeper. She told me about her family, her struggles, her dreams of having her own business someday. I told her about Sarah, about the loneliness, about feeling invisible. "You're not invisible to me," she wrote one night. That message, I read it 50 times. 3 months of video calls later, I bought a plane ticket to Manila. She met me at the airport with flowers and that smile that made me believe in second chances. We spent 2 weeks together. She showed me her city, introduced me to street food I couldn't pronounce, held my hand in public like she was proud to be seen with me. And here's the thing, she never asked for money. Not once. She talked about her dreams, sure, about wanting to build something for herself, but she never made it feel like she wanted it from me. That made it feel real. So, when she spread those papers out at the cafe and showed me her sari-sari store dream, I didn't see a business plan. I saw a woman I was falling for showing me her heart. "How much do you need?" I asked. She looked up at me, bit her lower lip. "I shouldn't ask you this." "How much?" $8,000. For the lease, the inventory, the permits. "But baby, that's too much. I can't ask you for that." I reached across and took her hand. "What if I want to invest in our future?" Her eyes filled with tears. "You really mean that?" "Whatever you need, I'm in." She came around the table and kissed me right there. People were watching. I didn't care. I felt like I mattered again. Like I was building something. Like I wasn't just waiting to die in a house that smelled like old memories and regret. 2 weeks later, I was back in Steinbach, sitting at my computer, initiating a wire transfer for $8,000. My hand hovered over the mouse for just a second. Just 1 second of doubt. Then I thought about Divina's face when I told her I'd help. The way she'd cried. The way she'd held me that night like I was her hero. I clicked confirm. The money left my account on a Tuesday morning. By Wednesday, Divina was sending me photos. The storefront, small, on a busy street in Quezon City. The sign going up, Divina's sari-sari store in bright yellow letters. She did a video call with me standing inside the empty shop. "This is it, baby. This is really happening. Because of you." I could hear the emotion in her voice. I felt it too. Pride. Purpose. Like I was doing something that mattered. She sent updates every few days. Photos of shelves being installed, inventory being delivered, boxes of soap, and instant noodles and canned goods. Opening next week, she texted with 3 heart emojis. I'm so nervous. You're going to do great, I replied. I believe in you. Opening day arrived. She did a video call. The store was packed with people, neighbors, friends. Her cousin was behind the counter. Divina gave me a tour, showing me everything, the layout, the products, the little corner where she'd set up a prepaid load station. It's small, she said, but it's ours. Ours. That word hit me right in the chest. I'm so proud of you, I told her. She blew a kiss at the camera. I couldn't have done this without you, my love. For 2 weeks, everything seemed perfect. She'd call me every night, tell me about the customers, the sales, how busy they were. But then I started noticing little things, small things. When I asked to see receipts, she'd get vague. Oh, they're all in Tagalog. I'll translate them later. Later never came. When I asked how much profit they were making, she'd say, It's still early. We're building the customer base. The store looked smaller than I remembered from the photos. And in the background of video calls, I kept seeing her cousin running things, never Divina. Where are you calling from? I asked one night. I'm at the store. Why? It doesn't look like the store. Oh, I'm in the back office. The front is too noisy. There wasn't a back office. I'd seen the whole place. But I didn't push it. I didn't want to be that guy. The suspicious foreigner who didn't trust his partner. The old man who thought everyone was after his money. So I made excuses for her. She's learning. She's busy. She's building something from scratch. This takes time. Then one night she called me crying. Baby, I need to talk to you about something. My stomach dropped. What's wrong? The business needs to be registered under my name. For legal reasons. It's easier here for locals. What do you mean? Foreign ownership is complicated in the Philippines. There's so much paperwork, so many restrictions. But if it's just under my name, everything is simple. I sat there in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, feeling something cold crawl up my spine. So legally, I won't own any of it? It's just paperwork, baby. It doesn't change anything between us. This is still our business, our dream. She was crying harder now, unless you don't trust me. Is that it? You don't trust me? And just like that, I was the bad guy. No. Of course I trust you. Then what's the problem? There's no problem. Do whatever you need to do. She stopped crying. Thank you, baby. You don't know how much this means to me. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for an hour. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't name it. I couldn't point to anything specific. So I told myself I was being paranoid, that this was just how business worked in the Philippines, that I needed to trust her. I kept telling myself that. I really did. 3 months after the store opened, I flew back to Manila. Divina picked me up at the airport. She was different. Not cold exactly, just distracted. On the drive to her apartment, she talked mostly about the business, how they needed to expand, how Kuya Ramon, her older brother, had all these ideas. You're going to love him, she said. He's really smart about business. That weekend I met her family. Her brother Ramon showed up at lunch with a laptop and a smile that was all teeth. Mid-40s, sharp dresser, confident in a way that immediately put me on edge. Bradley, my brother, he said, shaking my hand hard. Divina's told me so much about you. You're a good man, a very good man. We sat down to eat, but Ramon barely touched his food. He spent the whole time talking. About opportunities, about growth, about how the sari-sari store was just the beginning. You know what this community needs? He asked, looking right at me. Lechon catering. Do you know lechon? Roasted pig, I said. Exactly. Every party, every celebration, everyone wants lechon. And there's only 2 suppliers in this area. 2. That means the market is wide open. He opened his laptop, showed me spreadsheets, projections, a list of churches and community centers. I already have commitments for 6 events next month. 6. We just need startup capital for the roasting equipment, the transport, the permits. Divina squeezed my hand under the table. Then her Aunt Lorna came into the room. Older woman, soft-spoken. She took one look at me and started crying. 8. What's wrong? Divina asked. Lorna grabbed my hands. Thank you. Thank you for saving this family. My niece tells me what you've done. The store, the hope you've given her. You are an angel. I felt Divina's hand on my back, felt everyone's eyes on me, felt the weight of their gratitude pressing down like humidity. The lechon business could change everything for us, Divina whispered. For our future, baby. Ramon slid a paper across the table. More sketches. More numbers. $12,000. That's all we need to get started. I've done the research. We'll break even in 3 months. Profit by 6. I looked at the numbers, at Ramon's confident smile, at Divina's hopeful eyes, at Lorna's tears. Can I think about it? Ramon's smile didn't change. Of course, of course. This is a big decision. No pressure. But there was pressure. Huge pressure. The kind that made my chest feel tight and my thoughts feel cloudy. That night, lying in bed next to Divina, I stared at the ceiling. The fan spun above us. Outside, someone was playing karaoke too loud. You're quiet, Divina said. Just thinking. About the business? Yeah. She rolled over to face me. Ramon really knows what he's doing. And this could be so good for us, baby. Imagine. 2 businesses. Real income. We could get married. Build a house. Have a real future. Married. She'd never said that word before. You want to get married? I asked. Of course I do. Don't you? Yeah. Yes. I do. She kissed me. Then trust me. Trust us. This is going to work. The next morning, I told Ramon I'd invest. $12,000. He hugged me. Lorna cried again. Divina beamed. I felt like a hero, and I felt like something was slipping out of my grasp. I just couldn't figure out what. The lechon business launched a month later. Divina sent me photos of the equipment, the roasting pit, the delivery van with a magnetic sign on the side, Ramon's Lechon Catering in bold red letters. I noticed it didn't say Divina and Bradley's or even our business, just Ramon's. But I didn't say anything. 3 months in, I started asking questions. How's the catering business going? Good, baby. Really good. Can I see the income reports? Ramon handles all that. I'll ask him. She never asked him, or if she did, she never showed me. I'd tried a video call during business hours. She'd never answer. When she called back, she'd say, Sorry, I was at the store. It was so busy. But when I asked to see the store during calls, she'd be somewhere else. At home, at a coffee shop, never at the store. Why aren't you at the shop? My cousin runs it during the day. I handle inventory at night. That made sense. Sort of. But it didn't feel right. One afternoon, I decided to surprise her. I didn't tell her I was coming. I just showed up at the sari-sari store. It was 2 in the afternoon on a Wednesday. The store was closed. Metal gate pulled down, padlock on the door. An older woman was sweeping the street outside. Excuse me, I said. Do you know when the store opens? She looked at me, at my white face, my tourist clothes. That store, she said in broken English, closed many days now. Many days? Maybe 1 week? Maybe more. My heart started pounding. Do you know why? She shrugged. I don't know. The girl who owns it? I don't see her. I called Divina. It rang 4 times. Then voicemail. I called again. Voicemail? On the 3rd try, she answered. Baby, hi. Is everything okay? Where are you? I'm at my aunt's house. Why? What's wrong? I'm at the store. It's closed. Silence on her end. Long silence. Oh, yes. My cousin got sick. We had to close for a few days. The neighbor said it's been closed for a week. A week? Her voice changed, got sharper. Are you checking up on me? Is that what this is? No, you don't trust me. Divina, I'm just asking. I'm working so hard, Bradley. So hard. For us, for our future. And you're questioning me? You think I'm lying? She was crying now, full tears. I can't believe this. After everything. And there it was again. I was the bad guy. I'm sorry, I said. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I thought you were different. I thought you understood me. I do understand. I'm sorry. We hung up. I stood outside that closed store feeling like I'd just done something terrible, like I was the one who should apologize. That night, she texted me. I need $5,000 for permits and licenses for the lechon business. Ramon says we're getting audited. If we don't pay, we lose everything. I stared at that message. I'd given her $8,000 for the store, $12,000 for the catering business, now 5 more, $25,000 total, half my retirement savings, gone in 3 months. Can I see the audit notice? I texted back. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. You don't trust me. I just want to see the paperwork. Fine. You know what? Fine. Forget it. I'll figure it out myself. I'll lose the business. I'll lose everything. But at least I'll know you never really believed in me. My hands were shaking when I typed. I'll send the money tomorrow. Thank you, baby. I'm sorry I got upset. I'm just so stressed. I love you. I love you too. I sent the money. But for the first time, I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a fool. I needed someone to talk to. Someone who would tell me I was overthinking. Someone who would say everything was fine. So I called Jeff, old buddy from my welding days. He'd retired to Cebu 10 years ago, married a Filipina, lived the expat life. We'd kept in touch over the years. I told him I was in the Philippines. He said to come down to Cebu for a weekend. We met at a bar near his place. Outdoor seating, San Miguel beer, the ocean in the distance. So tell me about this girl, he said. I told him everything. How we met, the sari-sari store, the lechon business, how in love I felt, how sometimes I felt uncertain, but then Divina would say something sweet and I'd forget all my doubts. Jeff listened, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he took a long drink of his beer. You're being played, brother. My stomach turned. What? Come on, Bradley. You're a smart guy. You know what this is. No, Divina's not like that. They're all like that, man. I've been here 10 years. I've seen this exact story 50 times. Beautiful young Filipina. Older foreign guy. Sob stories about family and business. Money disappearing into thin air. Jeff, where's your name on the business registration? It's complicated. Foreign ownership laws. There are no laws stopping you from being on the registration. She lied to you. You don't know her. I don't need to know her. I know the script. Next, she'll need money for a family emergency. Then more for another business idea. Then her cousin or brother will have some crisis. It never ends, Bradley. Not until you're broke. I felt my face getting hot. You're wrong. Am I? Have you seen financial reports, receipts, anything proving these businesses actually exist? The store exists. I've seen it. But you haven't seen it operating. And this catering business? You seen that? I hadn't. You're just bitter, I said. Your marriage didn't work out and now you think everyone's a scammer? Jeff's face went hard. My marriage didn't work out because I was smart enough to leave when I realized I was just a bank account to her. You think you're different? You think you're special? You're not. You're just the latest guy with a pension and a lonely heart. Screw you. I stood up, threw money on the table. Bradley, wait. But I was already walking, angry, defensive, sure that Jeff was wrong, sure that Divina was different, sure that what we had was real. On the jeepney back to Manila, my phone buzzed. Text from Divina. Kuya Ramon found a supplier for frozen goods. We can triple our income. Need $15,000 by Friday. I stared at that message for the whole 3-hour drive. 15,000. My savings account was getting thin. Real thin. I thought about Jeff's words, about the pattern he described, about how it matched exactly what was happening. Then I thought about Divina's smile, about how she called me baby, about how she talked about our future, about marriage, about the life we could build. I opened my banking app. The transfer screen loaded. My finger hovered over the confirm button. Jeff's voice in my head. You're just a bank account to her. Divina's voice. This is our future, baby. I pressed confirm. $15,000. Gone. I texted her back. Sent. I love you so much. You won't regret this. I promise. I closed my eyes. Told myself Jeff didn't know her like I did. Told myself everything was fine. Told myself I was investing in love. But somewhere deep down, in a place I wasn't ready to admit existed, I knew. I knew I was lying to myself. 2 months later, my bank account was nearly empty. $55,000 gone. Vanished into business ventures I'd never seen operate, into permits I'd never seen paperwork for, into supplies and equipment and emergencies that somehow always needed immediate cash. I tried calling Divina one Tuesday morning. It rang out. Tried again. Voicemail. Tried again an hour later. Voicemail. I texted her. Everything okay? No response. The next day, same thing. No calls, no texts, nothing. By the third day, I was getting frantic. Then my phone rang. Her name on the screen. Divina, thank God. I've been so worried. I need space. Her voice was flat, cold. What? I'm stressed, Bradley. This business is stressful. You're stressful. I need space. I'm stressful? What did I do? You're always asking questions, always wanting reports, always doubting me. I just want to know where the money. There it is. The money. That's all you care about. That's not fair. I have to go. Divina. She hung up. I sat there in my apartment in Steinbach staring at my phone. My hands were shaking. Something was very wrong. I booked a flight that night. Landed in Manila 2 days later. Took a taxi straight to Quezon City. Straight to the sari-sari store. It was closed. Not just closed for the day. Abandoned. The yellow sign was gone. The metal gate was covered in rust. I banged on it. Hello? Anyone there? Nothing. An old man came out of the shop next door. Gray hair, kind eyes, rough hands. You looking for someone? He asked in careful English. The woman who ran this store, Divina. Do you know her? He nodded slowly. She gone. Gone where? Gee, I don't know. 3 days, maybe 4. She gone. With man. My chest tightened. What man? Young man. Filipino man. I see them leave together. Suitcases. Everything. The world tilted. Do you know where the lechon business is? The catering company? He shook his head. No lechon. No business. Just this store. And this store closed long time. I drove to the address Ramon had given me for the catering company. A small garage behind a house. The door was open. Inside was a single chest freezer. Unplugged. Empty. No roasting equipment. No delivery van. No staff. Nothing. Just a freezer and some old boxes. I asked the neighbors. No one knew anything about a catering business. No one had ever seen events being catered. No one had seen Ramon in weeks. I went to Divina's apartment. Knocked. No answer. Knocked again. The door opened. Aunt Lorna stood there. She didn't look surprised to see me. Where's Divina? I asked. She go to Mindanao. Family emergency. What emergency? Her mother. Very sick. Divina told me her mother was dead. Lorna's face didn't change. Oh, different mother. Her stepmother. Where in Mindanao? I don't know exact place. When is she coming back? I don't know. I stared at this woman who'd cried and called me an angel, who'd thanked me for saving her family. You were all in on it, weren't you? She looked away. I'm sorry. I don't know nothing. She closed the door. I stood in that hallway for 10 minutes, just stood there, breathing. Then I walked to the municipal office, asked to see the business registration for Divina's sari-sari store. They found it. One name on the paperwork, Divina Salonga, owner, sole proprietor. No mention of me. No mention of my money. Legally, I own nothing. I went back to her apartment building, sat on the curb outside. The old man from next door to the sari-sari store walked past, saw me, stopped. You okay, sir? He asked. I wasn't okay, not even close. She took everything, I said. He sat down next to me, didn't say anything for a long time. Then he spoke. This happened before. Many men like you. Come here, fall in love, give money, then woman disappear. You knew? I see many things. I'm sorry. Why didn't you warn me? I try. I say to you one time, be careful. You know, listen. Men in love never listen. He was right. I hadn't listened. Not to him, not to Jeff. Not to the voice in my own head that kept saying something was wrong. I'd chosen not to listen, because listening meant admitting I'd been used, and I wasn't ready for that. But sitting on that curb, my bank account empty, my dignity shattered, I couldn't avoid it anymore. I'd been financing a lie, and I'd known, deep down, I'd known all along. I found a lawyer the next day. His office was small, second floor above a pharmacy. Pictures on the wall of him shaking hands with politicians. Attorney Mercado, 40-something, professional, tired eyes. Tell me what happened, he said. I told him everything. The whole story, every transfer, every business, every promise. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Do you have any contracts? No. Written agreements? No. Promissory notes? No. Are you listed on any business registrations or property titles? No. He sighed, rubbed his temples. Mr. Bradley, I'm going to be direct with you. You have no case. What do you mean? You gave her money as gifts. Voluntarily. There's no documentation saying she would repay you. No proof these were loans. No legal obligation on her part. But she lied. About the businesses. About everything. Lying isn't illegal. Fraud is illegal. But proving fraud requires evidence of intent to deceive, and you gave her money willingly, multiple times. After she registered businesses in her name only. My throat felt tight. So there's nothing I can do? You could file a complaint. It would go nowhere. She could claim the businesses failed, that she tried her best, that the relationship simply didn't work out. You have no evidence otherwise. I have 55,000 reasons, and she has Filipino citizenship, knowledge of the system, and probably a cousin who knows a judge. He leaned forward. Mr. Bradley, I'm sorry. This happens more often than you think. Foreign men, Filipino women, money disappears. No paper trail, no recourse. How often? Once a week, someone sits where you're sitting. And what do? They learn an expensive lesson. They go home, they tell their friends to be careful, and they try to move on. I sat there in that office feeling smaller than I'd ever felt in my life. For what it's worth, he said quietly, you're not stupid. You're not the first. You won't be the last. She was good at what she does, and you wanted to believe. That's not a crime. It's just human. I paid him 2,000 pesos for his time. Walked out into the Manila heat. My phone buzzed. Message from Divina. Finally. After a week of silence, I'm sorry things didn't work out. I hope you understand. Take care of yourself. That was it. No explanation. No acknowledgement of the money. No apology for the lies. Just a polite brush off. Like I was someone she'd gone on 3 dates with. Not someone she'd promised a future to. Not someone she'd taken $55,000 from. I started typing a response. Deleted it, Started again. Deleted it. What was there to say? She'd already said everything by saying nothing. I didn't respond. I just stared at that message. Read it over and over, looking for something. Regret, guilt, humanity. But there was nothing there. Just coldness. And that hurt worse than the money, because it meant none of it had been real. Not one moment, not one kiss, not one promise. It had all been a performance, and I'd been the only one who didn't know it was a show. I flew back to Steinbach 3 days later, landed in Winnipeg, drove home in silence. The house looked exactly the same. Same furniture, same pictures on the walls, same emptiness. Like the last 6 months hadn't happened. But they had happened. My bank account proved it. I tried to slip back into normal life. Went to the grocery store, ran into my neighbor Tom. "How was the Philippines?" he asked. "Good. Really good. Find yourself a lady out there?" He winked. "Something like that. Lucky man. Living the dream." I smiled, nodded, walked away before he could ask more questions. My son called that weekend. "Dad, hey, just checking in. I'm fine. You sure? You sound off. Just tired from traveling." "Okay. Well, let me know if you need anything." "Will do." We hung up. He didn't ask about Divina. I'd mentioned her once. Months ago. He'd said something like, "Just be careful, Dad." I'd gotten defensive. Now I was glad he didn't ask, because I didn't have the energy to lie. At night, I'd sit in my living room and think about how I got here, not just the Philippines, but this moment, this emptiness. Sarah died, and I didn't know how to be alone. I was 60 years old and terrified that the best part of my life was over. Then Divina came along, young, beautiful, interested in me. She made me feel alive again, made me feel needed, made me feel like I still had something to offer. And I wanted that feeling so badly that I ignored every warning sign, every red flag, every moment of doubt. I wanted to believe I was special, that she saw something in me beyond my bank account, that love could happen twice, that I deserved a second chance. But here's the truth I couldn't admit until it was too late. I wasn't investing in a business. I wasn't even investing in love. I was buying a fantasy. The fantasy that a beautiful young woman could want me for me. The fantasy that I wasn't just a lonely old man with a pension. The fantasy that I mattered. And every time doubt crept in, I threw more money at it, because admitting the truth meant admitting I'd been used. Admitting I'd been a fool. Admitting I was alone and maybe that's all I'd ever be. So I kept sending money, kept making excuses, kept telling myself that Jeff was bitter and the lawyer was wrong and the closed store was just bad timing. I was the one who did this to myself. Divina didn't force me. She just showed me what I wanted to see. And I paid her to keep showing me. One night, about 3 weeks after I got back, my phone buzzed. Facebook message from someone named Rowena. "Hi Bradley, this is Divina's cousin. I hope you remember me. I'm sorry to bother you, but I have an emergency. My son needs surgery. I don't know who else to ask. Can you help? Even $2,000 would save his life." I stared at that message for a long time. They really thought I'd do it again. They really thought I was that far gone. I blocked her. Blocked Divina. Blocked Ramon. Blocked every Filipino number and profile I had in my phone. Then I sat in the dark and cried. Not for the money, but for how stupid I'd been. How desperate. How willing to be used. I thought about Jeff's warning. About Mang Tito's sad eyes when he told me Divina was gone. About Attorney Mercado's tired sigh when he said this happens every week. I wasn't special. I was just the latest Mark. The latest lonely foreigner with money and hope and stupidity. That hurt more than anything. Not being special. Being ordinary. Being predictable. Being exactly what they expected me to be. Months passed. Winter came to Steinbach. Snow piled up outside. I lived on my pension now. No more savings. No more retirement fund. Just the monthly check and a lot of time to think. My kids figured it out eventually. My daughter came to visit. saw the bills on my counter. The statements I'd left out. "Dad, what happened?" I told her. "Everything," she cried, got angry. "How could you be so stupid?" "I don't know. We could have helped you. We could have warned you. I wouldn't have listened." She knew I was right. She hugged me, told me she loved me, told me it would be okay. But we both knew it wouldn't be okay. Not really. The money was gone, the dream was dead, and I was back where I started, alone in a house that felt too big. I started writing things down. Not for anyone else, just for me, trying to make sense of it, trying to find the moment where I could have stopped, could have said no, could have seen the truth. But there was no single moment. It was 1,000 small moments, 1,000 little compromises. 1,000 times I chose hope over reality. I wrote, I wanted to build something. I wanted to matter again. Instead, I bought a fantasy and called it love. That's what it was, a fantasy. The fantasy that I could outrun my grief, that I could buy my way out of loneliness. That love was something you could purchase with enough money and enough willingness to be blind. Divina didn't love me. Maybe she never even liked me. I was just an opportunity. A Canadian man with a pension and a broken heart. The perfect combination. I don't hate her. I probably should, but I don't. I'm angry at her, sure. Angry at Ramon. Angry at Lorna. Angry at all of them for seeing me as nothing more than a walking wallet. But mostly, I'm angry at myself. For being so easy. For being so desperate. For caring more about feeling needed than about protecting myself. Sometimes I wonder what she's doing now. If she's found another man. Another foreigner with savings and dreams. If she's running the same playbook. The struggling young woman with business dreams. The sweet texts. The promises of forever. Or maybe she's done with that. Maybe she made enough from me to move on to something else. Maybe she's living comfortably in Manila, laughing about the stupid Canadian who gave her everything. I'll never know. And that's the hardest part. Not knowing. Not having closure. Not getting to hear her admit what she did. She just vanished. And I'm left here with the consequences. People in town know now. Word gets around in a small place like Steinbach. I can see it in how they look at me. Pity. Judgment. That mix of feeling sorry for you and thinking you're an idiot. Tom from next door doesn't ask about the Philippines anymore. I'm the cautionary tale. The old guy who got scammed by a pretty girl overseas. Don't be like Bradley. At least I can warn others, right? At least my stupidity can save someone else. That's what I tell myself. That's the meaning I try to find in this mess. Last week, I ran into an old friend from church. He's talking about retiring to Southeast Asia. Heard it's affordable. Nice weather. Good people. Just be careful, I told him. He laughed. Come on, Bradley. I'm not some naive kid. I know how the world works. That's what I said too. Before I met Divina. Before I convinced myself I was different. Before I lost everything. I didn't push it. People don't listen. Not until it happens to them. The house is quiet tonight. It's always quiet. I sit here with a cup of coffee and stare at old photos of Sarah. Back when life made sense. Back when love was real and simple and safe. I miss that. Miss her. Miss the version of myself that didn't know how badly I could be fooled. I'm 61 now. Older than I was. Not much wiser, despite what I've been through. I have no savings. No grand plans. No second chances. Just time. Time to sit here and remember how it felt to hope. To dream. To believe that someone could want me. That was worth something, wasn't it? Even if it was a lie. Even if it cost me everything. At least I felt alive for a few months. At least I tried. But I know that's just another lie I'm telling myself. Another excuse. Another way to avoid admitting the simple truth. I was lonely. She was pretty. I was desperate. She was smart. I had money. She wanted it. That's the whole story. Not a romance. Not a tragedy. Just a transaction I was too stupid to recognize. And now I'm here. sitting in the dark, drinking cold coffee, writing words nobody will ever read, trying to find meaning in the worst decision I ever made. There is no meaning, just expensive stupidity. Just what happens when grief makes you weak and someone smart enough notices. That's the lesson. That's what I learned. And it only cost me $55,000 and the last shred of my dignity. What a bargain.